The sound of my heels echoed down the polished marble floor as I stared at the door. This was it, my chance. I had dreamed of this moment for years. I could almost taste the champagne, the wealth, the luxury, but deep down, I knew it wasn't going to be just any night. This wasn't just about meeting a billionaire. This was about becoming someone else, someone with a future I could control. I wasn't always this woman. I didn't grow up among the silk sheets and glittering diamonds. I had to learn to pretend, to wear a smile that hid my desperation, to carry myself like I belonged in the world of wealth. But tonight, at this event, I was going to belong. I had no shame in admitting it. I wasn't here for the small talk with executives or for the overpriced hors d'oeuvres. Number one, I was here for Mark, the billionaire, the one who lived in that mansion with the white columns, the one whose face graced every magazine cover, whose name was whispered in every high society gala. Tonight, my best friend Lena has invited me to this exclusive event. She worked in marketing for one of his companies, and every inch of her told me she was connected. I had begged her to bring me. This was my shot. My moment to finally escape the ordinary life I'd been living for so long. I had no money to buy a dress that would make me look the part. But that didn't stop me. I borrowed money from Lena, and with the help of a small loan, I had bought the most stunning gown, a white fitted that clung to my body, short a little enough to show the world my legs. Perfect. I knew it would be the night my life changed. The moment I stepped into the ballroom, I knew I had entered a different world. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a golden glow on the sea of black tuxedos and glimmering diamonds. Every conversation buzzed with power, connections, and opportunity, but none of that mattered. What mattered was him. I spotted Mark across the room, leaning against the grand piano, his gaze scanning the crowd with a casual but intense air. The way he stood there, aloof, untouchable. He exuded power. His tailored suit fit him perfectly, and his eyes, those deep brown eyes, held 1,000 secrets. Lena nudged me, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're staring," she said, her lips curling into a knowing smile. I swallowed hard and forced my gaze away, but I knew that was the last time I would look anywhere else. I didn't just want to meet him, I needed to meet him. This was the man who could change everything for me. He was my ticket out of the small apartment, out of my dead-end job, out of this life. I was mid-conversation with a couple of guests when I felt it. The gaze. It was as though everything around me faded. The room grew quieter, and I could feel the heat of someone's stare on me drawing closer. I looked up. There he was, Mark. His piercing eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't look away. The world seemed to vanish, leaving just the two of us standing in the middle of that ballroom. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't smirking. His expression was unreadable. "I'm Mark," he said in a deep, velvety voice, and just like that, my pulse quickened. Mark's hand brushed against mine, and a jolt of electricity shot through my body. He wasn't just tall and handsome. He was commanding. Every word he spoke felt like it had weight behind it. His confidence was intoxicating, but it wasn't just the way he spoke that drew me in. It was his presence. He led me through the crowd, guiding me to the VIP area with ease. The moment we entered, everything seemed to blur. Waiters brought us champagne. Everything was perfect. Every detail, every glance. The touch of his hand on my lower back sent shivers down my spine. He smiled, but it wasn't a smile of pity. No, it was a smile of recognition. Recognition of what I wanted, and that he could give it to me. The night passed in a blur. Mark showed me everything: luxury cars, designer suits, the private terrace overlooking the skyline. But none of it mattered. None of it meant a thing, because the way Mark looked at me made everything different. Finally, as the night began to wind down, he leaned in closer, his breath warm against my ear. "You're not like the others," he said. His voice was low, filled with promise. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. What do you mean? I whispered back, unable to hide my nervous excitement. You're hungry for more, he said, his lips barely brushing my ear. And I can give it to you. For a moment, I was speechless. Did he mean? Mark placed a glass of champagne in my hand, his fingers grazing mine as he let it go. I'm not just a businessman, Amanda, he said, his voice laced with quiet certainty. I'm everything you've dreamed of. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just an encounter. This was my future. You've spent your whole life dreaming of wealth, of living in luxury, Mark continued, his gaze locking on mine, his eyes unwavering. And I'm offering you that. All of it. But I need one thing in return. I knew what he was asking. But it was more than just money. It was more than just luxury. It was power. Power to change everything. Power to make every one of my dreams come true. I can give you everything you want, he said. But you'll have to choose. Will you take it? I looked at Mark, standing there with the kind of confidence I could only dream of. This was the man who could give me everything I'd ever wanted. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't just here for the luxury. I wasn't just here for the diamonds or the champagne. I wasn't just here to live the life I'd always dreamed of. I was here because I wanted him. I'll take it, I whispered. The next few days passed in a whirlwind. Amanda, my name now, felt different. My world had shifted, and everything I had worked for, dreamed of, was within arm's reach. The life I had once only imagined was now unfolding before me, and it was intoxicating. Every detail felt unreal, the sleek black cars that whisked me away to Mark's private estate, the sparkling jewelry adorning my neck, and the incredible penthouse where I spent my nights. Mark had kept his promise. He showed me everything, the best restaurants, the most exclusive events. Luxury flooded my senses, but none of it mattered like I thought it would. There was something deeper, something I hadn't anticipated. It was him. Mark's cold, calculating demeanor hadn't changed. But the longer I spent with him, the more I realized just how much I wanted to be around him. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, his words felt like they held a power that left me breathless. I couldn't help but wonder, what else would he give me? How far would I let him push me into his world? But I didn't have to wonder for long. I was already in too deep. His world was becoming my world. You've spent your life chasing luxury, Amanda, Mark said one evening, his voice low as we sat on his private terrace, overlooking the twinkling city below. But it comes at a price. I had expected him to be a businessman, maybe even a charming one, but this side of him was darker, more dangerous. I could feel the pull of it, drawing me in. I felt a little bit of my own innocence slipping away each time he spoke. Do you want this life? He asked, his dark eyes boring into mine. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said, my voice steady. I want it. But what was the cost? And more importantly, what would he want from me in return? Every day with Mark felt like walking on the edge of something I didn't quite understand. I had spent so long dreaming of this life. But now that it was mine, I was starting to feel unsettled. Mark had the power, the control, and the strength that I had always wanted in a man. But his world was full of shadows, secrets that I wasn't sure I was ready to uncover. There was a tension in the air between us. He hadn't touched me in a way I had expected. Instead, he kept his distance, his gaze intense but never truly open. There was something about his control that made me want to break it. It was the kind of game I didn't want to play, but I couldn't help myself. You know, I whispered one night as we stood near the edge of his balcony, watching the city lights. I never imagined this life would come with rules. Mark turned to face me, his eyes narrowing slightly. Everything has rules, Amanda, he said softly. Even love. especially love. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know if this was love, but I was hooked, regardless. Mark had invited me to a gala, a private, high-end event that could make or break careers. I spent the day getting ready in his penthouse, slipping into a dress that shimmered in the low lighting. It wasn't just any dress. It was the kind of dress a woman dreams about wearing for someone who can appreciate its beauty. As I stepped out of the bedroom, I felt like I was walking into a different life, a life that didn't just belong to me, but to him. He stood by the door, waiting, dressed in his black tuxedo. His eyes traveled over me, a slow, deliberate assessment that made my stomach tighten. He didn't say a word, but the way he looked at me made my pulse race. "You look perfect," he said, his voice hushed, almost reverent. But I knew the truth. This wasn't just about me. This was about him showing the world what was his. And tonight, I was part of that display. The gala was everything I imagined. High society, wealthy faces, glittering glasses, and whispers of power floating through the air like a silent undercurrent. But as I stood beside Mark, I felt out of place. People stared at us, and I felt the weight of their gazes. I was the new girl, the girl who had climbed her way up, and now I had Mark by my side. But was that all? Was I just his arm candy? Was I just another woman he could control? "You're restless," Mark observed, his voice low and piercing. I looked at him, searching his eyes. "Do you control everyone like this?" His lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I don't control anyone, Amanda," he replied smoothly. "But I know how to make people want to follow me." There it was again, felt. The coldness in his tone, the power, but I was beginning to want him too. The days that followed were a blur of luxury and tension. Mark's world was as intoxicating as it was dangerous. I had everything I ever wanted, but I also felt like I was losing a part of myself. One evening, after a heated discussion with Mark about the future, I sat by the window, staring out into the city. I knew he was in the other room, plotting, always plotting. But what about me? What did I want? My heart raced as I wondered if I could ever leave this life. Could I walk away from all the wealth, all the power? I heard footsteps behind me, and then Mark's shadow fell across the floor. "You're thinking too much, Amanda," he murmured, his breath warm against my neck. "You belong here, with me." And suddenly, everything I had questioned felt irrelevant, because I didn't just want the lifestyle anymore. I wanted him. I was standing at a crossroads. Mark had made me a part of his world, but was that enough? Could I really go back to my old life, or had I become too entangled in his dangerous web? "I need you to make a decision," Mark said one night, his voice hard, like it always was when he was serious. I turned to him, feeling the weight of everything we had built. "What decision?" "Do you stay?" he asked, stepping closer, his gaze steady. "Or do you walk away?" It was a question that would change everything. I stood there, my heart racing, caught between the man who had given me everything and the life I had always dreamed of. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. I couldn't answer him. Not yet. Not until I knew what it really meant to be with him. Mark's gaze never wavered. "You have until tomorrow, Amanda." The silence between Mark and me felt like it stretched across lifetimes. I stared into his eyes, and for the first time, I felt like I was looking at a stranger, the man I had fallen for, the man who had swept me into a world of wealth and luxury, was now offering me something even more dangerous. A choice. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, my heart racing. Mark's words echoed in my mind. "Do you stay, or do you walk away?" Could I walk away from him, from the life he had given me? Could I leave behind the power, the luxury, the promises he had made? But then there was Leo. I had told myself I wouldn't get lost in this world. I had Leo to think about now. But the pull of Mark's world, his dangerous magnetism, it was like a fire I couldn't resist. I thought about everything. My life before this, the quiet apartment, the bills I struggled to pay, the loneliness I had buried in the back of my mind. Mark offered me everything and more. But was it worth the cost? I had dreamed of this life for years, but now that it was mine, I wondered if I was ready to pay the price. I wanted to be with him, but I also wanted something more, something real. I wanted love, not control. I wanted passion, not power. Mark was a dangerous man, and I knew it. But the truth was, I didn't care. I took a deep breath and looked up at him. The hardness in his eyes softened just a fraction, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability. "I can't leave, Mark," I whispered. "I don't want to leave, but I can't just be another part of your world." Mark's jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought he was going to pull away, but then something in his eyes changed. "I never wanted you to be just another part of my world," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I wanted you to be mine. All of you." I wasn't sure when it happened. Maybe it was the quiet moments we shared when the world felt like it had stopped. Maybe it was the way Mark's hand felt in mine, steady and unyielding, like he was grounding me in a world I had never known. Mark had always been a man of control, a man who lived in shadows. But in the silence of the night, when we shared a glance or a touch, I saw something else in him. A need, a longing. He wasn't just the billionaire who controlled everything. He was a man who had been burned. A man who didn't trust easily. And in that moment, I realized something I had never admitted to myself. I loved him, but was love enough? Was it enough to accept the danger that followed him? Was it enough to accept the consequences of being with him? Mark took a step closer, his breath warm against my skin. "I'll fight for you, Amanda. For us." His words were simple, but they carried a weight I could feel in every part of my body. I could feel it in my chest, in my hands, in my trembling heart. But I wasn't ready to give myself to him fully. Not yet. The next few days were a blur. I stayed in the penthouse, trying to drown out the noise in my head, but the doubts wouldn't go away. Mark's world was too big, too dangerous. He was too controlling, and yet I couldn't deny that I wanted him more with each passing second. But what about Leo? Could I really let him be raised in this world? The world of power, of violence, of lies. I looked at Leo, playing with his toys on the floor, his laughter echoing in the room. He was innocent. So innocent. I couldn't let this life take away his innocence. Mark could offer us everything, but at what cost? The tension reached its breaking point one night when Mark returned late from a meeting, his face hard and unreadable. I couldn't keep it in anymore. "I'm not just another woman for you, Mark. I'm not some prize you can claim," I said, my voice shaking. Mark's eyes flared with surprise, then anger. "What the hell are you talking about?" "You want to control everything," I spat. "But I'm not yours to control. And I don't know if I can keep living like this. You think everything can be solved with money, with power, but there's more to life than that." Mark stepped closer, his gaze fierce. "You think I want to control you, Amanda? You think I want to own you? You're wrong. You're wrong about everything." I stepped back, my heart pounding. "Then what do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "What is this? What am I to you?" For a long moment, Mark didn't answer. He just stood there, his eyes boring into mine, searching for something. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but there was no mistaking the raw emotion in it. "I want you to trust me," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "I want you to trust that I can give you everything. Not just the luxury, but the love, the safety, the future. And if you can't trust me, then I can't be the man you need." That night, as I lay awake in bed, I thought about everything Mark had said. I thought about my past, my present, and my future. Could I stay in his world? Could I live this life and still keep a part of myself intact? I closed my eyes, my mind spinning. The truth was, I didn't know if I could, but I also didn't know if I could walk away from him. Mark wasn't just a billionaire. He was everything I had ever wanted and feared. But I couldn't let fear dictate my life anymore. I had to choose. And when I opened my eyes the next morning, I knew what I had to do. I found Mark in the kitchen, his back to me as he poured himself a drink. He turned when he heard me approach, his face blank but expectant. I took a deep breath. "I'm staying," I said, my voice steady. Mark's eyes softened, the hardness in his face melting away. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. I nodded, walking toward him. "I'm sure." Mark stepped forward, his hand reaching out to me. He didn't speak, but the way he looked at me said everything I needed to hear. I wasn't just a part of his world now. I had become his world. And as I stepped into his arms, I realized something. No matter how dangerous, no matter how uncertain the future, I had made my choice. I was his, and I wasn't going anywhere.